Everybody, and welcome to the OMG show with your host, Oscar Garcia. And today, we're going to be talking about how to find buyers when you can't find them on traditional channels like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all these different things. And this is a pretty interesting question that I received pretty much because I see that a lot of times many people are struggling with the tools that they're using, right? So, for example, Facebook is a tool, Instagram is a tool, right? Social media is just a tool to communicate your message, to communicate what it is that you're advertising, right? It's not the, be all end all for your business. It's just one of your other tools, just like, going out and reaching out to your community should be one of your tools, just like going to different networking events or trade shows should be part of your tools, right? It's just a tool. Okay, but this one came specifically for online. It's like, I'm in a, B2B market. I'm trying to find, business owners that deal with this kind of stuff. So where do we find them, right? And 100%, sometimes it's very hard to find that niche buyer. Now, here's the thing, right? Everyone says that there's 6 billion people on Facebook and you're going to find your market, and you can, right? And if you spend enough money and you hold out enough, eventually you will find them on Facebook, right? But for example, if you wanted to find, like, I only want to advertise to business owners who own an acupuncture business, right? It's going to be very hard to find those type of people because you're pretty much niching down. Your audience is way too narrow, right? So how do we actually go about finding them, right? And that's always kind of like the challenge of how do we go about advertising and putting a message in front of the right audience. So what do we do in that point? Well, one thing that we do is we can keep it generic, right? So if we know we're trying to go after business owners who are, acupuncturists, then maybe we should advertise to interests that are related to acupuncture, right? Very straightforward. Okay. So that's a very straightforward approach that you can do. You can probably do some, Facebook audience insights, find some more interest, things like that that are similar, right? For example, you could, just go into the Facebook search bar and just type in acupuncture and then see what pages come up. You click on that little verified box in the top left corner, and it'll show you pages you can actually advertise to actively. And so you'll be able to see, okay, let me put an ad in front of this. Now, you're not going to be targeting strictly business owners, right? You're going to be targeting people who like acupuncture, who are into, acupuncture, but you're not necessarily targeting business owners, right? You could take it down another level where in your ad, sets where you're selecting your targeting, you can go ahead and select, Facebook page admins. Typically, Facebook page admins are people that, own businesses or, are trying to get something going inside of Facebook, right? So if they like acupuncture, but they're also a Facebook page admin, that could be a good indicator. That's probably the market you want to go after. The issue that you might end up running into is that your audience size isn't big, right? So just putting $5 a day, you might be able to burn through that audience, and you don't know if those are buyers that you're necessarily advertising to. Okay. I'm not going to really go into Instagram just because Facebook owns Instagram. So most of that targeting can be set through Facebook anyways. Twitter, I don't even bother with Twitter. I've never been able to understand what Twitter does, how to use it. So I won't be able to give you much help there. LinkedIn is definitely a good way to go as well. However, you are going to get a higher cost per click on LinkedIn just because the ad platform isn't as robust as, for example, the ads manager. However, you can find some pretty awesome success on LinkedIn as well. In fact, if you are looking for B2B, type of customers, then LinkedIn would probably be a better way to go about it, right? And then last but not least, you always have Google, right? Google has, been there, forever. It's a robust platform. It works. It is definitely the most expensive one, in my opinion, from what I've seen through my use of it. But you can't find exactly what you want because on Google, people are actively looking for solutions, right? So an acupuncturist might search for, how to scale my acupuncture business. And there you go. You can place your ad for that search term and, there you go. You're targeting that direct person. When it comes to like social media targeting, right? People aren't going onto social media to look for things to buy, to things to, solve their business. Really, they're looking there to kind of, catch up on the latest Game of Thrones talk, to see, pictures of their family, to see what the latest gossip is or the new meme or etc. But buying is typically like the last thing. So whereas the Google search platform is more like how to, right? That's like the number one search phrase is how to, it's a problem solution platform. Whereas Facebook is more of kind of like a social interaction platform. So you have to understand the platform and use it to your advantage, right? So if you wanted to create some kind of campaign on Facebook that's social, you might want to pose an interesting question about acupuncture, right? So maybe something kind of like what your acupuncturist doesn't want you to know. And maybe that's kind of like, oh, what are you talking about here? And if you aim that at people that like acupuncturists, that are Facebook page admins of, acupuncture page, things like that, you might get enough to get the conversation started. And through that, again, you're going to have to spend time. You're going to have to be patient with that. You're kind of casting a big net. But as more and more people engage, you're kind of pulling that net tighter and tighter and tighter. And you're really identifying where your market is coming from, right? There are some, where special circumstances where it's very hard. In fact, I have a client now who, is in the home care space, and we tried finding home care owners to advertise to, and it was a challenge because most of the time we were messaging caregivers, right? So the employees that work for a home care agency, and there wasn't enough passion behind, the ad interests, right? So, for example, another client of mine's in soccer. People are passionate about soccer, so there's huge pages. There's many pages. There's a big audience out there that you can advertise to, right? And the thing is that people are very passionate in that. So if you say one thing, other people consider it blasphemy, and they'll start engaging in conversation, which as a marketer, it really helps with advertising and getting a cheaper cost per click and all that kind of jazz. But in the home care business, the passion wasn't really there, right? And all the pages that we were targeting had a very low page like count and things like that. And so ultimately, we ended up going a different way than Facebook. But that's not to say that, okay, you can never find your people on Facebook, right? The other thing that you have to consider too is your messaging, right? What messaging are you using? Because your messaging attracts and disqualifies the people that you are trying to speak to, right? So you might want to say like, hey, acupuncture owners, or I'm not sure what the term would be there, but you want to make sure that the copy resonates with an acupuncture business owner if that's who you're going for, right? Like, what are their wants? What are their needs? What are their pains? What are their challenges? Right? Put that front and center. So that way, if someone is not an acupuncturist, clinic owner, they'll disqualify themselves that way. Okay, because you want to make sure that if you're spending this money on ads, that you're speaking to your buyer. All right. There's a great term that you should probably commit to memory. It's called hungry buying audience. Okay, so if we break that term down, there's three different parts. We have hungry buying audience. So we first need an audience, right? And then in that audience, we need to find where the buyers are, right? And then from the buyers, we need to find out what are they hungry for? What are they hungry to buy? And so once we can identify those three things, then we know how to position our messaging, how to position our offer, so that way when the right people look at it, it makes complete sense and they're able to kind of say, yeah, you know what? I want to go ahead and sign up. I want to go ahead and purchase this. I want to go ahead and move forward. Okay. And the thing too is that everyone's trying to find buyers, right? Buyers are great. But the thing about it too that you should consider is not everyone's going to buy your product right now. So what you want to do is generate leads, right? Create a lead generation campaign where you're getting people's information so you can always follow up with them later, right? It's also one of the things as to why, like when it comes to like e-commerce, rather than sending people straight to a product page, I'd rather send them to, a free offer first and then send them to a product page. But that free offer is typically attached to this one product, just because I want to be able to remarket to them later through email. I want to be able to generate a list, So same thing. They may not be a buyer right now, but that doesn't mean they won't be a buyer tomorrow. So go ahead and build your list, generate that list of leads, and at minimum, email them once a week. That way you stay top of mind. I'm a big fan of emailing once a day. I do it with my different businesses, and it's awesome. I mean, it's just great. You stay top of mind. You're able to build a relationship. People expect your emails to come out, and it's a great way to just build your tribe, build that horde of people that really have your back. So when it comes to trying to find your buyers through social media, remember that social media is just a tool. It's not the end all be all. Okay. And if one tool doesn't work, you have to go ahead and find the right tool to get the job done. It may not be Facebook, it may not be Instagram, it may not be LinkedIn. Okay. But just ask yourself, where do my business people, like, where does my market hang out? Do they hang out on Facebook? Do they hang out on LinkedIn? Do they hang out on Instagram? If the answer is yes, start advertising there. Stick to one platform, and then keep it moving. Okay. And then when it comes to your advertising strategy, remember that the copy has to both attract and disqualify the audience, right? So if you want to speak to a specific person, speak to that specific person so that anyone else is pretty much deflected. All right. The other thing you have to consider too is your targeting on the ad sets, right? Specifically with Facebook, is that okay? Let's if we can't figure out who these business owners are first, to start with, attacking these big interest pages. So again, I want to go after acupuncture owners. Well, I can't do that on Facebook, so I can go after acupuncture pages, right? And then have another different targeting filter aimed at Facebook page likes, aimed at behavior, small business owner, different things like that, to then start filtering, right? And based on the way you test your ads, you'll be able to see, okay, this combination of parameters is performing a whole lot better than this other parameter. Of interest that I targeted, right? So you want to test all these different things out, okay? But at the end of the day, ask yourself, like, is my audience on this platform, right? Just because everyone else is on Facebook doesn't mean that you need to be on Facebook, or that you should even be on Facebook as well, all right? Or on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, all right? So that's it for today's episode. I'll see you all here next time. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great weekend.